So this is also very interesting section, discipleship, lineage of the Arhats. So in this section, we'll learn about discipleship. What is discipleship and uh, what is the lineage of Arhats? Arhats means one who is pure soul. I mean, who has purified their mind, outflowing, outflowing able mind, right? And who have become non-outflowing. They are called Arhats. So we learn about this. So Mahamati asked to the blessed one, pray tell us how many kinds of disciples there are. Okay. And the Buddha replies, yeah, may I read?
The Blessed One replied, "There are as many kind of disciples as there are individuals, but for convenience they may be divided into two groups, disciples of the lineage of the Arhats and disciples known as Bodhisattvas. Disciples of the lineage of the Arhats may be considered under two aspects. First, according to the number of times they will return to this life of birth and death, and second, according to their spiritual progress. Under the first aspect, they may be subdivided into three groups: the stream entered, the once returning, and the never returning.
So Buddha says that actually as many people, there are as many kinds of disciples as people are, as the individuals are, right? So every individual is a kind of disciple, every individual. But they can be divided into two groups. First is disciples, and other is arhats. So there is one lineage, disciples, and other is lineage of arhats or the Buddhas, and disciples known as bodhisattvas. So one is lineage of arhats, and other is lineage of bodhisattvas. Okay, so there are two groups, arhats and bodhisattvas group, and disciples of arhats lineage. Arhats means masters and disciples. They are called arhats. They can be considered in two aspects. First, according to the number of times they will return to this life. Okay, and second, according to their spiritual progress. And under the first aspect, I mean the number of time they will return, there are three groups. One group is stream entered, means they will return maybe 5 times or 7 times. They are called stream entered. And there is second group, they will return only once. They're called once returning. And the third group, they will never return. I means this is the last life. Okay. Now the stream entered. Read.
The stream entered are those disciples who, having freed themselves from the attachments to the lower discriminations, and who have cleansed themselves from the twofold hindrances, and who clearly understand the meaning of the twofold egolessness, yet who still cling to the notions of individuality and generality, and to their own egoness. They will advance along the stages to the sixth only to succumb to the intrinsic bliss of the samadhis. They will be reborn 7 times or 5 times or 3 times before they will be able to pass the sixth stage. The once returning are the Arhats and the never returning are the Bodhisattvas who have reached the seventh stage.
Yes. So Sutra says that the stream entered one. Okay. The stream entered one in Sanskrit called Sotapan. Sotapan. So Sotapan will be reborn maximum 7 times. Okay. So if you have become Sotapan, then you will return maximum 7 times for sure, or also 5 times, also 3 times. Okay. But when you pass the sixth stage, then that happens. And the ones returning are called arhats. Arhats will return only once, not more than once. Okay. And the never returner are called bodhisattvas, like Buddha. He will never return because that was his last life. So bodhisattvas or Buddhas never return. Okay, who reach seventh stage. Now, next.
The reason for these gradations is because of their attachment to the 3 degrees of false imagination, namely faith in moral practices, doubt, and the view of their individual personality. When these 3 hindrances are overcome, they will be able to attain the higher stages. As to moral practices, the ignorant, simple-minded disciples obey the rules of morality, pity, penance, because they desire thereby to gain worldly advancement and happiness. with the added hope of being reborn in more favorable conditions. The stream entered ones do not cling to moral practices, for any hope of reward for their minds are fixed on the exalted state of self realization. The reason they devote themselves to the details of morality is that they wish to master such truths as are in conformity with the undefiled outflowings. As regards the hindrance of doubt in the Buddha's teachings, that will continue so long as any of the notions of discriminations are cherished and will disappear when they disappear. Attachment to the view of individual personality will be gotten rid of as the disciple gains a more thorough understanding of the notions of being and non being, self nature and egolessness, thereby getting rid of the attachments to his own selfness that goes with those discriminations. By breaking up and clearing away these three hindrances, the stream entered ones will be able to discard all greed, anger, and folly.
Yes. So they are stream entered ones, right? And
Mm.
the stream entered ones have worked for eradication of greed, anger, and folly. So the lesser are these things, these three things found in the people in the stream entered one. So they will return only, and maximum 7 times they will be born, and seventh birth will be the final, because they have already lessened the greed, anger, and folly. There are only few, there are only little quantity remained, and they slowly are completely cleared away, and they become, so first from Sotapan, I mean stream entered one, they will become Arhat, and from Arhat they will become Buddha. Okay. Now for the ones returning Arhats.
As for the once returning Arhats, there was once in them the discrimination of forms, signs, and appearances, but as they gradually learned by right knowledge not to view individual objects under the aspect of quality and qualifying, and as they became acquainted with what marks the attainment of the practice of dhyana, they have reached a stage of enlightenment where in one more birth they will be able to put an end to the clinging to their own self interests. Free of this burden of error and its attachments, the passion will no more assert themselves and the hindrances will be cleared away forever.
Yes. So the Arhats are only once returning people, right?
Mm.
And they have overcome fetters. There are 10 fetters, okay? 10 fetters. So the first three fetters are overcome by the stream entered one. Okay. Do you remember the 10 fetters? First is Sakai Ditti. Sakai Ditti. In English called self-illusion. Note down. First is Sakai Ditti, self-illusion. Second is Vichikitsa. Vicikcha. Vichikitsa means skepticism. Third is called Silbat Paramasu. Silabbat. Silbat Brat. Silbat Paramaso. Paramaso. In English, this is called attachment to rules and rituals. Okay. And fourth is called Kam Chando. Kamachando. Kam Chand. In English, it's called sensual lust. Kam Chando. Sensual lust. Fifth is called Vyapad. 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 Means ill will. Sixth is called Ruprag. Vyapad in English is called ill will. Sixth is Ruprag. Ruprag is craving for the world of pure form. Ruprag. Second is Aruprag, craving for the formless world. Craving for the formless world. Aruprag. Or in other words, you can say people who believe in forms and people who do not believe in forms. Sakar and Nirakar. Okay. Seventh is Aruprag, means craving for the formless world or attachment to formless world. Eighth is Man, means conceit. Man is conceit. Ninth is Udachan, means Udachan. UDDHACCAN. Udachan. It's called restlessness. And 10th is Avidya. Avidya is Avidya, ignorance. In Pali called Avidya, Avijja, Avidya. Okay. So the Sotapan is called stream enterer, in Pali called Sotapan. Sotapan, Sotapan. And Sotapan are they who have overcome the first three fetters. Okay. And once returning, in Pali called Sakadgamin, Sakadamin, Sakadgamin. In Sanskrit, this is called Sukritgami. So Sotapan in Sanskrit is called Srotapan. Srotapan. Okay, in Sanskrit. Sotapan is Pali, in Sanskrit called Srotapan. Sakadgami is Pali, in Sanskrit called Sugridgami. Sukridgami. And Sukridgami means once returning and called Arhat. And Arhat are they who have overcome fourth and fifth fetters. Because when they were Sotapan, they had overcome first three. And when they overcome the last and fourth and fifth, they become Arhat. Okay, and never returner are Bodhisattvas or Buddhas. Okay, they overcome all the fetters, rest of the five fetters. Therefore, they become Buddhas. Clear?
Yes.
First three are overcome by Srotapan, and fourth and fifth are overcome by Arhats, and later balance remaining fifth are overcome by Buddhas. Okay. Now, Buddha says when they overcome these fetters, reach the stage of enlightenment, and only one birth is required, only one birth, and that also clears away in the last birth, and they become Buddha. Under the second aspect, disciples may be grouped
Under the second aspect, disciples may be grouped according to the spiritual progress they have attained into four classes, namely disciples, Shravaka, masters, Pratyeka Buddha, Arhats, and Bodhisattvas.
Yeah. So in first category, you have seen that they are categorized according to number of returning. First group of disciples are number of they will return. They are called first group. And second type of disciples are according to their levels, their stages. So in those stages also, the first is Sravak, means disciple. Second is masters, Pratyek Buddha. Third is Arhats. And fourth is Bodhisattvas. Now, the first class of disciples.
The first class of disciples mean well, but they find it difficult to understand unfamiliar ideas. Their minds are joyful when studying about and practicing the things belonging to appearances that can be discriminated, but they become confused by the notion of an uninterrupted chain of causation, and they become fearful when they consider the aggregates that make up personality and its object world as being Maya like, empty, and egoless. They are able to advance to the fifth or sixth stage where they are able to do away with the rising of passions, but not with the notions that give rise to passion, and therefore they are unable to get rid of the clinging to an ego soul and its accompanying attachments, habits, and habit energy. In this same class of disciples are the earnest disciples of other faiths who, clinging to the notions of such things as the soul as an eternal entity, supreme Atman, personal God, seek a nirvana that is in harmony with them. There are others, more materialistic in their ideas, who think that all things exist in dependence upon causation, and therefore that nirvana must be in like dependence.
Okay. So this is the category disciples and masters. Because the disciples have also confusions. They have also dullness, blurriness, non-clarity. Therefore, they are disciples. And masters are more clear, but lower than arhats. Masters are lower than arhats, and arhats are lower than bodhisattvas. Okay, bodhisattvas and buddhas are not different. Okay, actually, bodhisattvas become Buddha when they reach 10th stage. When they reach 10th stage, they become Buddhas. So even bodhisattvas are better than arhats. Okay, now read, but none of these.
But none of these, earnest though they be, have gained an insight into the truth of the twofold egolessness, and are therefore of limited spiritual insight as regards deliverance and non deliverance. For them, there is no emancipation. They have great self confidence, but they can never gain a true knowledge of nirvana until they have learned to discipline themselves in the patient acceptance of the twofold egolessness.
Yes. So they were disciples. Now, the class of masters.
The second class of masters are those who have gained a high degree of intellectual understanding of the truths concerning the aggregates that make up personality and its external world, but who are filled with fear when they face the significance and consequences of these truths and the demands which their learning makes upon them, that is, not to become attached to the external world and its manifold forms, making for comfort and power, and to keep away from the entanglements of its social relations. They are attracted by the possibilities that are attainable by so doing, namely, the possession of miraculous powers such as dividing the personality and appearing in different places at the same time, or manifesting bodies of transformation. To gain these powers, they even resort to the solitary life, but this class of masters never get beyond the seductions of the learning and egoism, and their discourses are always in conformity with the characteristic and limitation. Among them are many earnest disciples who show a degree of spiritual insight that is characterized by sincerity and undismayed willingness to meet all the demands that the stages make upon them. When they see that all that makes up the objective world is only manifestation of mind, that it is without self nature, unborn, and egoless, they accept it without fear, and when they see that their own ego soul is also empty, unborn, and egoless, they are untroubled and undismayed, with earnest purpose to seek to adjust their lives to the full demands of these truths. But they cannot forget the notions that lie back of these facts, especially the notion of their own conscious ego self and its relation to nirvana. They are of the stream entered class.
Yes. So the masters are more ascended than the disciples, but they have also attachment. They have also fear of complete dissolution because they also become fearless. I mean, frightened when they think of complete egolessness, complete emptiness, because that is kind of frightening. If Buddha say the emptiness is the inherent nature of everyone, even of yourself also, they accept, but still they have some kind of fear and they inhibit to become arhats and buddhas. Okay, they are attracted for the solitude place and the possession of miraculous powers. They are very interested in supernatural powers, but they have not, reached that stage. They have not got rid of seductions of their learnings and egoism. Therefore, they are masters, but not the arhats. Okay, and especially the notion of their own conscious ego self and its relations to nirvana. They are still uh, have some attachment to this. They cannot forget that the ego self doesn't exist or the ego self is a hindrance, and they still justify the ego for with the nirvana. So they have to clear this also. And this third level is arhat. Now here it is making the
The,
arhat.
cla- the class known as Arhats are those earnest masters who belong to the once returning class. By their spiritual insight, they have reached the sixth and seventh stages. They have thoroughly understood the truth of the twofold egolessness and the imagelessness. Of reality, with them there is no more discrimination, nor passion, nor pride of egoism. They have gained an exalted insight and seen into the immensity of the Buddha lands. By attaining an inner perception of the true nature of universal mind, they are steadily purifying their habit energy. The Arhat has attained emancipation, enlightenment, the dhyanas, the samadhis, and his whole attention is given to the attainment of nirvana. But the idea of nirvana causes mental perturbations because he has a wrong idea of nirvana. The,
Yes.
no- the notion of nirvana in his mind is divided. He discriminates nirvana from self and self from others. He has attained some of the fruits of self realization, but he still thinks and discourses on the dhyanas, subjects for meditation, the samadhis, the fruits. He pridefully says, there are fetters, but I am disengaged from them. He is a double fault. His is a double fault. He both denounces the vices of the ego and still clings to the fetters. So long as he continues to discriminate notions of dhyana practice, subjects for dhyana, right knowledge, and truth, there is a bewildered state of mind, and he has not attained perfect emancipation. Emancipation comes with the acceptance of imagelessness.
Yes. So you have seen the arhats are naturally more advanced than masters, but arhats are still entangled. Arhats are still under influence of some illusions, some ignorances. What they still believe that nirvana is different and self is different. They still believes they still discriminate nirvana from self and self from others. And he has attained some of the fruits of self-realization. Okay, and also he discourses on dhyana and meditation, samadhi, fruits, and he still has some attachment to fetters. They still believe in 10 fetters, that there are fetters, and I am disengaged from fetters. That means we have to rise from the fetters also. When we reach in the perfect imagelessness, then we ascend even the stage of arhats also. And in perfect imagelessness, there are no grades, there are no stages, there are no fetters, there are no binding, nor being bonded, nor any such elements, because there are no elements. In imagelessness, there are no elements. If there are elements, if there are entities, that means we are still in that zone, in that sphere, where we believe in entities. So we have to transcend that belief. There are no entities, no being, no living being. When there are no beings, then there is no question of binding and bondage, and someone who is in bondage. Okay. So Buddha says arhats have still some clinginess to these philosophies, to these ideas. I mean, entities or images or ego or substances. So they are not free from that, this stuff, and they have not entered into the perfect imagelessness, because the complete emancipation comes with the acceptance of imagelessness. The complete emancipation comes by being completely in the imagelessness. So according to degree of being established in imagelessness, we are free. So we cannot be free, complete free, without complete imagelessness takes place. And what is complete imagelessness? There is no discrimination, there is no gradation, there is no nothing, there is no master, no disciple, nothing. But you will have to be there. If you still have ignorance and you claim that I am master, you can be master, but not the arhat. But still, if you are arhat and you say I am arhat, but still you have not become Buddha. So to become Buddha, you will become oblivious of this idea that I am arhat, or someone is not arhat and I am arhat. So this I-ness, this sense also is not a Buddha. So the Buddhas and the ignorant become similar. Ignorant also doesn't have idea, and Buddhas also. So ignorant are still under influences. Buddhas are not. This is the main difference. Ignorant people come under influence of greed, anger, and delusion, but Buddha cannot come ever. Therefore, they are Buddhas. Okay. So emancipation comes with the complete acceptance of imagelessness. Now, next.
He is master of the dhyanas and enters into the samadhis, but to reach the higher stages, one must pass the dhyanas, the immeasurables, the world of no form, and the bliss of the samadhis into the samapattis, leading to the cessation of thought itself. The dhyana practicer, dhyana, the subject of dhyana, the cessation of thought, once returning, never returning, all these are divided and bewildering states of mind. Not until all discrimination is abandoned in their perfect emancipation.
Perfect. What a thrilling thought is this. Can you rethink again? Can you contemplate on this? See what Buddha says. Buddha says, of course, he is master of dhyanas and enters into the samadhis, but to reach the higher stages, one must pass beyond the dhyanas. So when you say dhyana, meditation, that means you are still under ignorance, in ignorance. So Buddhas do not do dhyanas. They transcend the dhyanas also. Okay, so there are some higher stages than dhyanas, samadhis. So samadhis also have to be culminated into samapatti. Samapatti means samapt, finish. Buddha says they have their master of dhyana, but they have still some clinginess to dhyana. They have to transcend the dhyanas. Okay, then only the world of immeasurable, of the no forms and the bliss of samadhis, they have to dissolve the bliss of samadhi into samapattis, and that will lead to the cessation of thought itself. Okay. The dhyana practitioner, dhyana, the subject of dhyana, the cessation of thought, once returning, never returning, all these are divided and bewildering states of mind. Note the word, bewildering states of mind. Bewildering means confusing states of mind. So long you are clinging to the concepts of dhyana, then control of mind, then chitta-vritti nirodh, or you are clinging to the once returning concept, never returning concept, you are still dividing yourself. You are still dividing the reality. You are still living in divisions. So you have to transcend all the divisions. Okay? And these are bewildering state of mind. Buddha says, not until all discrimination is abandoned is there perfect emancipation. So if you want to enjoy perfect emancipation, you will have to say no to all of these things. We'll have to say no to dhyana, no to samadhi, no to stages, no to this. Then you will ask, then why Buddha is talking about these things? Just because of the Mahamati is asking. Because the disciples are confused. And once by his discourses, if the confusions are cleared away, then Buddha will say, come now, come into perfect imagelessness. And the people who have come in perfect imagelessness, they don't need any discourses. They don't have any questions. You are blank. So the person who is coming tomorrow, as he says that he is blank, so that is great if indeed he is blank. And if you have any skepticism, any such confusions, that means he's not blank. He has read some philosophy, some things, so he has listened from someone. So that will be difficult for him to understand. If you're a complete blank, then you don't need any question. But he has still some questions about yoga, meditation. That means, yeah, he's not complete blank. He has curiosity, but that will be very difficult for him to understand that yoga is no thinking, no question, just being silent. If someone comes here and I say, please don't ask anything, just be silent. They may feel disgrace, they may feel insult, they may feel hurt, or they may feel that I'm being suppressed because I have so many questions and he's not answering any question. But the questions are normally, when you practice dhyana or means silence, then questions naturally subside. Things become clear. Okay. So Buddha says further, thus the Arhat,
master of the dhyanas, participating in the samadhis, but unsupported by the Buddhas, yields to the entrancing bliss of the samadhis and passes to his nirvana. The Arhat is in the class of the once returning.
Okay. So Buddha says, Arhat participates in samadhis, but Arhats are unsupported by Buddhas. Arhats are not protected by Buddhas. See, Buddha himself says, Arhats, they believe in themselves, therefore they are not supported by Buddhas. So people who are not supported by Buddhas may fall again. But since Arhats are very pure souls, so, and Arhat's life is last life, so sooner or later, there is just a little, push, and he will come into Buddhahood. But so long one is Arhat, one is not supported by Buddha. So Bodhisattvas are only supported by Buddhas. Only Bodhisattvas. So you have seen the one category of disciples, masters, and Arhats. Another category is Buddha, Bodhisattva. Yeah. Now, disciples and masters.
Disciples and masters and arhats may ascend the stages up to the sixth. They perceive that the triple world is no more than mind itself. They perceive that there is no becoming attached to the multiplicities of external objects except through the discriminations and activities of the mind itself. They perceive that there is no ego soul and therefore they attain a measure of tranquilization. But their tranquilization is not perfect every minute of their lives, for with them there is something effect producing, some grasped and grasping, some lingering trace of dualism and egoism. Though disengaged from the actively functioning passions, they are still bound in with the habit energy of passion and become intoxicated with the wine of the samadhis. They still have their abode in the realm of the outflowings. Perfect tranquilization is possible only with the seventh stage. So, as long as their minds are in confusion, they cannot attain to a clear conviction as to the cessation of all multiplicity and the actuality of the perfect oneness of all things. In their minds, the self nature of things is still discriminated as good, bad, therefore, their minds are in confusion and they cannot pass beyond the sixth stage. But at the sixth stage, all discrimination ceases as they become engrossed in the bliss of the samadhis, wherein they cherish the thought of nirvana, and as nirvana is possible at the sixth stage, they pass into their nirvana. But it is not the nirvana of the Buddhas.
Okay. So Buddha says the three categories: disciples, masters, and arhats, who are different than Bodhisattvahood. Disciples, masters, and arhats are different than Bodhisattva and Bodhisattvahood. They ascend the stages up to the sixth. And you know what is the sixth stage? So Abhimukhi is the sixth stage. They reach up to the sixth stage and they perceive that the triple world is no more than mind itself. They perceive that there is no becoming attached to the multiplicities of objects. Okay, they attain a measure of tranquilization, but their tranquilization is not perfect every minute of their lives. For with them, there is something effect producing, some grasping, some lingering trace of dualism and egoism. Though disengaged from the actively functioning passions, they are still bound in with the habit energy of passion and become intoxicated with the wine of the samadhis. They are still addicted in the samadhis. Addiction of wine. They are still intoxicated with the wine of samadhis. They still have their abode in the realm of outflowing, evil outflowing. Okay. Perfect tranquilization is possible only with the seventh stage. And what is the seventh stage? D.
It was a.
Yes. Meghna.
Duramgam.
Duramgam. In English?
Asad afar, going afar,
Yeah, gone afar.
gone afar.
So when you reach the seventh stage, Buddha says, when one reaches to the seventh stage, then only perfect tranquilization is possible because you go so far from everything. You have to go very far from your being also, and all the things, all the people related to your being. Since you are already not there, so people do not belong to you. Suppose if someone is living in Lajpat Nagar and that person is gone to US, so people will come here. Is that so and so person here? No, sir, he's not here. He has left this place and he has gone to US. Then nobody will come to visit him because all people believe that he's not here. Similarly, you're not in this body. You have gone already so far. People will come and you will find it empty. Yes, there is no the old Meghna. There is no Rishabh. There is no Yogyana. There is no someone. And whatever these people are here are just momentary. And actually, there is no existence actually. So seventh stage is Duramgam, and perfect tranquilization is possible only when you reach the seventh stage. Okay. And Buddha says their mind are still in good and bad discriminations of good and bad. Okay, judgmental, because they are not reached the seventh stage. They are still in sixth stage. But when in samadhis, they are in samadhis, bliss of samadhis, and they cherish the thought of nirvana. They believe that I'm in nirvana, but that nirvana is not of Buddhas. That nirvana is not actual nirvana of Buddhas. Okay, There are, that nirvana is theirs, not Buddha's nirvana. So masters, disciples, masters, and arhats are not bodhisattvas, and they are below bodhisattvas. Now, see, what are bodhisattvas? What is bodhisattva?
Then asked Mahamati to the Blessed One, "Will you tell us now about the disciples who are bodhisattvas?" The Blessed One replied, "The bodhisattvas are those earnest disciples who are enlightened by the reason of their efforts to attain self realization of noble wisdom and who have taken upon themselves the task to enlighten others. They have gained a clear understanding of the truth that all things are empty, unborn, and of Maya like nature. They have ceased from viewing things discriminatively and from considering them in their relations. They they thoroughly understand the truth of twofold egolessness and have adjusted themselves to it with patient acceptance. They have attained a definite realization of imagelessness, and they are abiding in the perfect knowledge that they have gained by self realization of noble wisdom."
Yeah. So Buddha says bodhisattvas are those earnest disciples who are enlightened by reason of their efforts to attain self-realization of noble wisdom, and who have taken upon themselves the task to enlighten others. See, this is something which distincts from arhats. So arhats are still selfish people. They are not bodhisattvas. Bodhisattvas are they who have taken task to enlighten others. So bodhisattvas are more admirable, not arhats. Arhats are just they have enlightened but not reached the seventh stage. But bodhisattvas have reached the seventh stage, even higher stages, and they have taken the task upon themselves to enlighten others. Okay, and they have gained clear understanding of truth that everything is empty, unborn, and Maya-like. Their their vision has become very purified. Okay, and uh, they have accepted essentially. They have attained a definite realization of imagelessness, and they are abiding in the perfect knowledge, and they have gained by self-realization of noble wisdom. So, imagelessness comes when you become selfless. So long you have self, you cannot enter into imagelessness. So, transcend self. You read that the meditation of Buddhas, they think of self, others only, not self, not Tathata even, not their relation with Tathata, just for others, just for the emancipation of all the beings. Now, well stamped.
Well stamped by the seal of suchness, they enter the second of the Bodhisattva stages. The first stage is called the stage of joy, pramudita. Entering this stage is like passing out of the glare and shadows into the realm of no shadows. It is like passing out of the noise and tumult of the crowded city into the quietness of solitude. The Bodhisattva feels within himself the awakening of a great heart of compassion, and he utters his 10 original vows.
Yeah. So these are the 10 original vows. Okay. Everybody sattva should recite, should, you know, speak and meditate on and remind oneself every morning. Yeah.
To honor and serve all Buddhas, to spread the knowledge and practice of the Dharma, to welcome all coming Buddhas, to practice the six paramitas, to persuade all beings to embrace the Dharma, to attain a perfect understanding of the universe, to attain a perfect understanding of tile mutuality of all beings, to attain perfect self realization of the oneness of all the Buddhas and Tathagatas, and self nature, purpose, and resources, to become acquainted with all skillful means for the carrying out of these vows for the emancipation of all beings, to realize supreme enlightenment through the perfect self realization of noble wisdom, ascending the stages and entering Tathagatahood.
Okay. So these are the 10 vows of Bodhisattva. So one should not aim to become Arhat. One should aim to become Bodhisattva since beginning. So every earnest disciple should aim to become Bodhisattva, not only Arhat. Ascending the stages, not taking rest until you reach the Tathagathut. Okay. And when you work on the mission to enlighten all the beings, then you will find that you will reach the Tathagathut very soon, and you will find that they are already in the Tathagathut. Okay. Read further and you will see. And you must remember all these 10 vows. I would like to listen from you from heart. Yeah.
In the spirit of these vows, the Bodhisattva gradually ascends the stages to the sixth. All earnest disciples, masters, and arhats have ascended thus far, but being enchanted by the bliss of the samadhis and not being supported by the power of the Buddhas, they pass to their nirvana.
Yeah.
The same fate would befall the Bodhisattva except for the sustaining power of the Buddhas. By that, they are unable to refuse to enter nirvana until all beings can enter nirvana with them. The Tathagatas point out to them the virtues of Buddhahood which are beyond the conception of the intellectual mind, and they encourage and strengthen the Bodhisattvas not to give in to the enchantment of the bliss of the Samadhis, but to press on to further advancement along the stages. If the Bodhisattva had entered Nirvana at this stage, and they would have done so without the sustaining power of the Buddhas, there would have been the cessation of all things and the family of the Tathagatas would have become extinct.
Okay, so Buddha says that Bodhisattva doesn't enter into nirvana of Arhats. They still press on to further advancement along these stages. And Bodhisattva don't enter into nirvana. They refuse to enter into nirvana. Okay. And since they are supported by the sustaining power of the Buddhas, they will never extinct. Okay. They will reach to the 10th stage. Next.
Strengthened by the new strength that comes to them from the Buddhas, and with the more perfect insight that is theirs by reason of their advance in self-realization of noble wisdom, they re-examine the nature of the mind system, the egolessness of personality, and the part that grasping and attachment and habit energy play in the unfolding drama of life. They re-examine the illusions of the fourfold logical analysis and the various elements that enter into enlightenment and self-realization. And in the thrill of the new powers of self mastery, the Bodhisattvas enter upon the seventh stage of far going, Durangam.
Okay. So Bodhisattvas are always strengthened by the power of Buddhas. And they just ascend these stages and they don't care about the stages also. But since the Buddha's power are driving him, so they reach different stages easily. And from sixth, they reach to the seventh, far going, Duramgam. Okay. And supported by the sustaining power of the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas.
Supported by the sustaining power of the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas at this stage enter into the bliss of the Samadhi of perfect tranquilization. Owing to their original vows, they are transported by emotions of love and compassion as they become aware of the part they are to perform in the carrying out of their vows for the emancipation of all beings. Thus, they do not enter into nirvana, but in truth, they too are already in nirvana because in their emotions of love and compassion, there is no rising of discrimination. Henceforth, with them, discrimination no more takes place. Because of transcendental intelligence, only one conception is present: the promotion of the realization of noble wisdom. Their insight issues from the womb of Tathagatahood, and they enter into their task with spontaneity and radiancy because it is of the self nature. It is of the self nature of noble wisdom. This is called the Bodhisattva's nirvana, the losing oneself in the bliss of perfect self yielding. This is the seventh stage, the stage of far going.
Yes. Okay. So the seventh stage is reached by Bodhisattvas only because the seventh stage is reached by losing oneself in the bliss of perfect self-yielding. Here, losing oneself. You lose yourself in perfect self-yielding. Then only you can reach the seventh stage. It's called far, gone afar. Yeah, far going. Duram Gama, you have gone very far. And how you go? You lose yourself into the self-yielding. Okay? So that is the seventh stage by the sustaining power of Buddha. The eighth stage.
The eighth stage is the stage of no recession, Achal. Up to this stage, because of the defilements upon the face of universal mind caused by the accumulation of habit energy since beginningless time, the mind system and all that pertains to it has been evolved and sustained. The mind system functioned by the discriminations of an external and objective world to which it became attached and by which it was perpetuated. But with the Bodhisattva's attainment of the eighth stage, there comes the turning about within his deepest consciousness from self-centered egoism to universal compassion for all beings, by which he attains perfect self-realization of noble wisdom. There is an instant cessation of the delusive activities of the whole mind system. Dancing of the waves of habit energy on the face of the universal mind are forever still, revealing its own inherent quietness and solitude, the conceivable oneness of the womb of Tathagatahood.
Yes. So the eighth stage called no recession, Achal. Up to this stage, because the defilements upon the face of universal mind is cleared away. Okay, so defilements are born of accumulation of habit energy since beginningless time. Okay, so you don't know since when you started, and since then you have accumulating the defilements over the face of universal mind. That is why you're not realizing that. And there is only one task to remove the defilements, and that will manifest. Okay, and when that manifests, then turning about takes place at the eighth stage, and you become achal, means no recession, no movement. And when the waves are cleared away, the dancing of waves from the face of universal mind, that is forever stilled, not for moments, forever still. And that reveals its own inherent quietness and solitude, and the inconceivable oneness of the womb of the Tathagatahood is realized. Inconceivable oneness of the womb of the Tathagatahood with perfect solitude. Please read further.
Henceforth, there is no more looking outward upon an external world by senses and sense minds, nor a discrimination of particularized concepts and ideas and propositions by an intellectual mind. No more grasping, nor attachment, nor pride of egoism, nor habit energy. Henceforth, there is only the inner experience of noble wisdom, which has been attained by entering into its perfect oneness.
Yes, yes. So there is no external looking outward in external world, and there is no uh, effects or any influence of the mind, no more grasping, no attachment, no pride, no egoism, no habit energy. Therefore, the inner experience of noble wisdom, which has been attained by entering into this perfect oneness, is possible. Thus,
Thus, establishing himself at the eighth stage of no recession, the Bodhisattva enters into the bliss of the 10 samadhis, but avoiding the path of the disciples and masters who yielded themselves up to their entrancing bliss and who passed to their nirvanas, and supported by his vows and the transcendental intelligence which now is his, and being sustained by the power of the Buddhas, he enters upon the higher path that lead to the Tathagatahood. He passes through the bliss of the samadhis to assume the transformation body of a Tathagata, that through him all beings may be emancipated. Mahamati, if there had been no Tathagata womb and no divine mind, then there would have been no rising and disappearance of the aggregates that make up personality and its external world, no rising and disappearance of ignorant people nor holy people, and no task for bodhisattvas. Therefore, while walking in the path of self realization and entering into the enjoyments of the samadhis, you must never abandon working hard for the emancipation of all beings, and your self yielding love will never be in vain. To philosophers, the conception of Tathagata womb seems devoid of purity and soiled by these external manifestations, but it is not so understood by the Tathagatas. To them, it is not a proposition of philosophy, but is an intuitive experience as real as though it was an amlaka fruit held in the palm of the hand.
yes. So establishing himself at the eighth stage of achal, no recession, Bodhisattva enters into the bliss of 10 samadhis, all of samadhis. Okay? And bodhisattvas avoid the path of disciples and masters. They avoid because they yield themselves to their nirvanas, but bodhisattvas ignore that, and supported by their vows and transcendental intelligence, now that is theirs, and also being sustained by the power of Buddhas, they enter to Tathagatahood upon the higher paths which lead to Tathagatahood. Okay, passing through different samadhis, different transformations, they reach to the higher stages. Okay, which philosophers cannot understand. Now, with the cessation of the mind system,
With the cessation of the mind system and all its evolving discriminations, there is cessation of all strain and effort. It is like a man in a dream who imagines he is crossing a river and who exerts himself to the utmost to do so, who is suddenly awakened. Being awake, he thinks, is this real or is it unreal? Being now enlightened, he knows that it is neither real nor unreal. Thus, when the Bodhisattva arrives at the eighth stage, he is able to see all things truthfully, and more than that, he is able to thoroughly understand the significance of all the dreamlike things of his life as to how they came to pass and as to how they pass away. Ever since beginningless time, the mind system has perceived multiplicities of forms and conditions and ideas which the thinking mind has discriminated and the empirical mind has experienced and grasped and clung to. From this has risen habit energy that by its accumulation has conditioned the illusions of existence and non existence, individuality and generality, and has thus perpetuated the dream state of false imagination. But now, to the bodhisattvas of the eighth stage, life is past and is remembered as it truly was, a passing dream.
Okay. So when they ascend the stages, they come to experience the realities also, and they sing the things yatha bhutam, as they are. Okay. Yes. Now further.
As long as the Bodhisattva had not passed the seventh stage, even though he had attained an intuitive understanding of the true meaning of life and its Maya like nature, and as to how the mind carried on its discriminations and attachments, yet, nevertheless, the cherishing of the notions of these things had continued, and although he no longer experienced within himself any ardent desire for things, nor any impulse to grasp them yet, nevertheless, the notions concerning them persisted and perfumed his efforts to practice the teachings of the Buddhas and to labor for the emancipation of all beings. Now, in the eighth stage, even the notions have passed away and all effort and striving is seen to be unnecessary. The Bodhisattva's nirvana is perfect tranquilization, but it is not extinction nor inertness, while there is an entire absence of discrimination and purpose. There is the freedom and spontaneity of potentiality that has come with the attainment and patient acceptance of the truths of egolessness and imagelessness.
Yes. So now Bodhisattvas pass all the stages, the lower stages. Now they have reached up to eighth stage, and all the notions have passed away. Okay. And they see that every effort, all the efforts and striving are unnecessary. Okay, all the efforts are unnecessary. And the Bodhisattva's nirvana is perfect tranquilization. There is not extinction nor inertness. Okay. And Bodhisattvas accept the truths of egolessness and imagelessness more deeply. Next.
Here is perfect solitude, undisturbed by any gradation or continuous succession, but radiant with the potency and freedom of its self nature, which is the self nature of noble wisdom, blissfully peaceful with the serenity of perfect love. Entering upon the eighth stage with the turning about at the deepest seat of consciousness, the Bodhisattva will become conscious that he has received the second kind of transcendental body, Manomaya Kaya. The transition from mortal body to transcendental body has nothing to do with mortal death, for the old body continues to function and the old mind serves the needs of the old body, but now it is free from the control of the mortal mind. There has been an inconceivable transformation death, Achinta Parinam Chuti, by
Mm.
which the false imagination of his particularized individual personality has been transcended by realization of his oneness with the universalized mind of Tathagatahood, from which realization there will be no recession. With the realization, he finds himself amply endowed with all the Tathagata's powers, psychic faculties, and self mastery. And just as the good earth is the support of all beings in the world of desire, karma dhatu, so the Tathagatas become the support of all beings in the transcendental world of no form.
Yes. So upon entering on the eighth stage, Bodhisattvas gain a different kind of body. That's called transcendental body, Manomaya Kaya. And the transition from mortal body to this body is not related to mortal death. You don't need to die to gain this body. To gain this transcendental body, you don't have to die. You gain that body just by meditation, by reaching that state. When you reach that state, then you get that transcendental body. And that is called inconceivable transformation death. Achintya Parinam Chuti. This is also death, but this is not physical mortal death. This is psychic death, spiritual death. Okay. And by this kind of death, you gain new body. And this mortal body keeps continuing, lives. Okay. So long there is product with this body that will live. But you have already died. Mentally, you have died, and you have again got new body called transcendental body. Okay, and you there you see that this kind of body is supported by Buddhas, Tathagatas, and like the sun holds everything, or this earth holds everything, so also Buddha holds all these supernatural powers. And the first seven of the Bodhisattva stages were
The first seven of the Bodhisattva stages were in the realm of mind, and the eighth, while transcending mind, was still in touch with it, but in the ninth stage of transcendental intelligence, Sadhumati,
Adhumati. Yes.
by reason of his perfect intelligence and insight into the imagelessness of divine mind, which he had attained by self realization of noble wisdom, he is in the realm of Tathagatahood. Gradually, the Bodhisattva will realize his Tathagata nature and the possession of all its powers and psychic faculties, self mastery, loving compassion, and skillful means, and by means of them will enter into all the Buddha lands. Making use of these new powers, the Bodhisattva will assume various transformation bodies and personalities for the sake of benefiting others. Just as in the former mental life, imagination had risen from relative knowledge, so now skillful means rise spontaneously from transcendental intelligence. It is like the magical gem that reflects instantaneously appropriate responses to one's wishes. The Bodhisattva passes over to all the assemblages of the Buddhas and listens to them as they discourse on the dream like nature of all things and concerning the truths that transcend all notions of being and non being, that have no relation to birth and death, nor to eternality, nor extinction. Thus, facing the Tathagatas as they discourse on noble wisdom that is far beyond the mental capacity of disciples and masters, he will attain 100,000 samadhis, indeed, 100,000 niyutas of kotis of samadhis, and in the spirit of these samadhis, he will instantly pass from one Buddha land to another, paying homage to all the Buddhas, being born into all the celestial mansions, manifesting Buddha bodies, and himself discoursing on the triple treasure to lesser bodhisattvas that they too may partake of the fruits of self realization of noble wisdom.
okay, got it. So up to the eighth stage, and you have to remember all these abbreviations, right? They will be very useful. So up to the fifth were for the Arhats, and Bodhisattvas up to the sixth were Arhats, and from the sixth to seventh are Bodhisattvas. And Bodhisattva reached the eighth stage, but eighth stage is also connected with mind, with the realm of mind. But we have to transcend that mind. And when you transcend, then you come into transcendental mind. Transcendental. We transcend the mind, then you reach transcendental state. That is called sadhumati. Normally, we call people sadhu who have dress, we have different kind of garment, who have long hairs, beards. We call sadhus, but they're not sadhus in reality. Sadhus are they who have transcended the mind. We have reached in transcendental state. They are called sadhus. And when the Bodhisattvas reach there, then there are so many supernatural powers. They naturally come. One after another, they come manifest as if you don't need anything, but these powers are endowed by the Buddhas to you. Why? To serve the people, to emancipate all the beings. The more selfless you become, the more powers come to you. Okay? And you visit different realms, different assemblages of Buddhas, okay? And you discourse, you face the Tathagatas, they discourse on noble wisdom. And also you you experience different kotis of samadhis, and you travel from one Buddha land to other Buddha land, okay? In meditation or, as such. And there you teach the lesser bodhisattvas, because you are also bodhisattvas, but advanced bodhisattva, but you teach lesser bodhisattvas. So at one hand you are still learning, on the other hand you are teaching to lower bodhisattvas. This is how bodhisattvas grows, and that will give the fruit of self-realization of noble wisdom. Further, thus
Thus, passing beyond the last stage of Bodhisattvahood, he becomes a Tathagata himself, endowed with all the freedom of the Dharmakaya. The 10th stage is for the Tathagatas. Here, the Bodhisattva will find himself seated upon a lotus like throne in a splendid jewel adorned palace and surrounded by Bodhisattvas of equal rank. Buddhas from all the Buddha lands will gather about him and, with their pure and fragrant hands resting on his forehead, will give him ordination and recognition as one of themselves. Then they will assign him a Buddha land that he may possess and perfect as his own.
Okay. Now Bodhisattva reaches to the 10th Bodhisattva stage. That is called Tathagatahood or Buddhahood. That is called Dharmakaya. Dharmakaya is 10th stage. And what is the 10th name? Dharmameg Samadhi. That is Dharmameg. So Dharmameg, Dharmakaya, all they are synonyms. Clear? Dharmameg, Dharmakaya, all are synonymous. And you reach the 10th stage and you find yourself that I am seated upon the lotus-like throne and in a splendid jewel and surrounded by the bodhisattvas of equal rank. And Buddhas from different Buddha lands will gather and will ordain you by resting their golden rays emanating hands over your head, and they will welcome you as new Buddha, and they will assign you a new Buddha land, which you will possess and perfect as your own. This is how happens, This is how you enter into the community of Buddhas. And Buddha means not this Buddha only. All the Buddhas from different religions. Anyone can become Buddha from any religion. Now, the 10th stage.
The 10th stage is called the Great Truth Cloud, Dharmameg. Inconceivable, inscrutable. Only the Tathagatas can realize its perfect imagelessness and oneness and solitude. It is Maheshwara, the radiant land, the pure land, the land of far distances, surrounding and surpassing the lesser worlds of form and desire, Karma Dhatu, in which the Bodhisattvas will find himself at one ment. Its rays of noble wisdom, which is the self nature of the Tathagatas, many colored, entrancing, auspicious, are transforming the triple world as other worlds have been transformed in the past, and still other worlds will be transformed in the future. But in the perfect oneness of noble wisdom, there is no gradation, nor succession, nor effort. The 10th stage is the first is the eighth is the fifth, and the fifth is the seventh. What gradation can there be where perfect imagelessness and oneness prevail? And what is the reality of noble wisdom? It is the ineffable potency of the Dharmakaya. It has no bounds nor limits. It surpasses all the Buddha lands and pervades the Akanishtha and the heavenly mansion of the Tushita.
Okay, so this is the final stage where everyone has to reach, every bodhisattva has to reach. It's called Dharmameg. Dharma means truth, great truth, or Arya truth, ultimate truth, and Meg is cloud. So that is the cloud of ultimate truth that is inconceivable, inscrutable. You cannot conceive, you cannot fathom, unfathomable, inscrutable. You cannot scrutinize that. Only Tathagatas can realize its perfect imagelessness and oneness and solitudeness. And it is Maheshwara. What Buddha calls Maheshwara is this. This is what is called Shiva. Shiva is the ultimate state. Maheshwara is one of names of Shiva, right?
Yes, sir.
So that is Maheshwara. That is Parameshwara. That is ultimate Ishvara. The 10th stage is Maheshwara stage. The radiant land, the pure land, the land of far distances that is surrounding and surpassing the lesser worlds of forms and desires, called Karma Dhatu, and where Bodhisattvas find themselves at one ment, and their rays of noble wisdom, emanate. They're entrancing, they're auspicious, and they transform the triple world. Okay? And in the perfect oneness of noble wisdom, there is no gradation, nor succession, nor effort. The 10th stage is first. Did you see this? The 10th stage is first stage. And 5th is 8th. 8th is this. This is this. There is no stage, in fact. Did you see this? Yes. In the world of perfect imagelessness or noble wisdom, there is no stage. In the world of Buddhas, Dharmakayas, Maheshwaras, there is no stage. There is no bounds nor limit. And that surpasses all the Buddha lands. And that pervades the entire Akanishta, means the entire heaven, all the heavens. It pervades the entire existence in itself, or infinite. So that is the 10th stage. That is the ultimate stage everyone has to reach. And when you reach there, you become Buddha. Okay? And you become Tathata Tathagathood, or noble wisdom itself. Because then you are no more. Whatever is there is noble wisdom, Ariprajya. And what is noble wisdom? Tathagathood, we'll study in the next section, in next class.